Well, let's talk about work. Maybe you're headed to work now. Maybe you love where you work. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's high stress. Maybe it's low stress. But if you've got some toxic coworkers at your place of employment, it could be harmful to your health. We have an analyst on communication skills and author of The Old School Advantage. Jim Whiddon joins us again on the program. Good morning, Jim. Good to have you back in Memphis. Let's talk about these toxic coworkers and what we can do to either avoid them or not make them so stressful for us.
Well, it is stressful. Thanks for having me. It's about communication, Karen. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So many times in our current society, our attention is so diffused, and we're in such a rush, especially in the big cities, that we just don't sit down and take the time to get to know coworkers. And that simply means communicating with them, talking to them in a way that you can build rapport with them. Whether this is before or after the toxicity, it's a great way to avoid the issue. But if it's already happening, learn about their hometown, ask about their family, talk about their hobbies, get stories from their childhood. Who's their favorite team? And I know this sounds simple, but we've lost the art of building rapport even with our coworkers, those people that we see each day, and or managers. And this is one way to bring the blood pressure down. And come to a place where we can start relating to each other on a personal level.
Digital media makes it so easy, Jim, to get from point A to point B in communication and getting tasks done. And you bring up an interesting point because there's so much to learn and get to know about somebody between point A and point B. But we're such a get the check mark on the page kind of society now that I guess we don't even stop between A and B. It's like an express train.
Yeah, that's true. The workflow is so continuous and contiguous that it makes it difficult. But turnover in companies, and both managers and workers should listen to this. Turnover is about managers, not about companies. In other words, people leave because of the people at the company, not because of the company itself. And So, interacting and communicating in a way. I mean, we talk to companies all over the country and give them templates for a build rapport conversation. We call it lava. It's in the book. And also we give them phrases, what we call influence phrases. So instead of making direct statements to somebody to try to get them to behave, you can use phrases like, you might want to, instead of just saying, you need to do this, you might want to think about. Or here's a phrase, you're right, and. Right, that and builds a bridge. And probably my favorite is, if I were you, I would feel exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Now, that phrase sounds like you're agreeing with them, but really all you're saying is that, Tim, if I were you, I would feel exactly the same way. So you're not really saying anything, but it calms them down so that you can talk as adults, as mature people, and say, hey, what's going on here? Let's see if we can work together. Or if it's a manager, the same thing. At some point, when it hurts the company, when it hurts the bottom line, when it hurts the mission, and when it's hurting that person who's being toxic, you're going to have to go and say something to somebody. But take the approach of, I want to help the mission. I want to help this person. Don't make it about me. Don't go in and say, I can't work under these conditions. I just can't.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, guess what? You're now becoming toxic.
Let me ask you this question. That's one example of some toxicity we might see at work. When you're going to all these different companies and talking, do you find that there is one particular kind of toxic coworker worse than another? Is it the gossipy coworker? Is it the lazy coworker? Is there something that people deal with more often than not?
I think it's either that coworker that is short, in other words, may have a temper. That's never a comfortable situation, as we've all encountered, or even maybe even been that person. The other one is the passive-aggressive. That's probably the worst one to deal with because they're being aggressive, but it's being done in such a passive way it's hard to put your finger on it. The old walking on eggshells kind of situation we've all been in or been the cause of. That's the one that's the most difficult to deal with, yeah.
Interesting.
All right, Jim Whiddon joining us on Memphis Morning News. Hey, looking forward to checking out your book in the mail coming up and finding out a bit more about this. We know that you're a communications analyst, expert, and a trainer of millennials. Thank you so much for carving out a few minutes for us here in Memphis on Memphis Morning News.
My pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.